Breaking news tonight from the investigation into former President Trump's trove of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. The Washington Post is reporting that the DOJ has asked a federal judge to hold Trump's office in contempt for failing to fully comply with a May subpoena to return all classified documents in his possession, according to people familiar with the matter. This comes after months of mounting frustrations from the Justice Department that spiked after Trump's lawyers provided assurances that a diligent search had been conducted for all the documents. But the FBI amassed evidence suggesting and later confirmed through a court-authorized search that many more documents remained. The judge has not yet held a hearing or ruled on the request, according to the Post. Joining me now to discuss is Charles Coleman, civil rights attorney and MSNBC legal analyst. Charles, I got to start with this. I get that the DOJ wants to bring charges against Trump's whole team as a staff, label, and a crew, right? I get it. I understand the anger. I understand the frustration. Here's my thing. Why has no one been arrested for this yet? Because it almost seems like it's a good faith act on the part of the DOJ to think that these people are just unaware as opposed to they're just lying. Like, why hasn't someone been arrested now? You have lied. Either you're lying intentionally or you're lying on behalf of the client. Tell me why this is a step in the right direction and not just more wasting of time that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 months.
Well, first off, Jason, I will see your hit 'em up reference and raise you one wire reference and say that when you come for the former king, you can't miss. And what I mean by that is they are making sure that they have taken every step to get as much information as they can before proceeding with an indictment and and a prosecution of not just Donald Trump, but as you so eloquently put, his staff, his label, and everyone else. I think that there are two very telling things about today's activity in court. The first of which is Jack Smith is not playing around. He is not Merrick Garland. He is not waiting. He is moving forward. And I think this notion of trying to find him in contempt is actually a significant indication of the fact that he is not going to allow the Trump team to continue to delay for months at a time in the ways that Merrick Garland's DOJ actually did. So there is something positive to be gleaned from that. The second thing that I find to be very interesting and almost comical is how we got here. We got here because Trump's own attorneys are not willing to attest to the fact that their client has done what his client was supposed to actually do. There is no one on Trump's legal team who is willing to step forward and be a custodian of documents and certify with their license on the line that what they are saying and attesting to is actually true. And that says a lot about the lack of confidence they have in their own client.
So, Charles, that actually, I'm very curious about that, because when it comes to Trump's legal team, right, like if you've got, look, lawyers sometimes know they've got corrupt clients, right? Whether your lawyer is Jackie Childs or Proctor from Power, right? You know when you're representing somebody who's a little shady from time to time. The more I'm seeing in this, is it clear that Trump's lawyers are as crooked as he is, or are they trying to avoid further conflict and further investigations, but he is simply lying to them? Where is the fault line in this? Is it with the legal team, or is it with Trump, or both?
I can't let you get away with another reference. I heard the Power reference, so I've got to raise you another one on Kleinfeld from Carlito's Way by Sean Penn. And in that case, it actually is a follow reference in that you know your client is a mess, and you cannot work it in a way, you cannot work this case or risk your own actual embarrassment from a professional standpoint, right, in terms of certifying something. Because here's the thing, Jason, they know that if it comes down to Trump or Trump saying something, listen, I lied, or I told my attorney, so on and so forth, when they're in front of not only the bar, but a potential judge facing criminal charges, they know Trump is going to throw them under the bus the same way he's thrown everyone else under the bus. So they're not willing to take that on and potentially risk an entire career over a client that they know is dishonest and untruthful, even with the people who he retains to represent him. So this is more of a Trump thing and more of a very difficult tightrope for anyone who at this point is left that is willing to take on the responsibility of representing Donald Trump in court.
When we first heard about this, and I was here this night, when we first heard about the raid at Mar-a-Lago, and we heard about the documents, and some of them were sort of in a hallway, it may have been corners, it didn't seem like all of them were secured. And then over the last couple of months, we've gotten the impression that they may have been in Mar-a-Lago, they may be in other locations, they might be shifting around and around. How does the DOJ know how much has actually been recovered? And is there a possibility, not to suggest that Trump isn't corrupt and the people working with him aren't corrupt, but is it possible that they don't even know the entirety of what they have and they can't locate it, which is one of the reasons why it hasn't been returned?
Well, Jason, between the National Archives that have put out a list of things that they were looking for initially that led to the subpoena ultimately, along with other documents, I have a belief that both things are true. I believe that there is more out there that they do not know is missing, but I also believe that there are some very specific things that they've been looking for that have not shown up yet. So I think it's actually both. I think that they may believe that, look, the universe of documents that have not been returned to us is somewhat amorphous in as much as we don't necessarily know how deep this rabbit hole goes. But I also think that they're very clear about certain specific documents that have not been returned, that nobody has accounted for, and no one has yet to say, look, we don't know. The third thing that I think has also played a role in this is that Donald Trump himself has kind of told himself in terms of the interviews he's given about this conversation. He at one point said, if I take the documents wherever I take them. So that suggests that he may have taken them to other places besides Mar-a-Lago. We know that he has properties all across the country. So that stands to reason that for someone who has this sort of logic, these documents could literally be anywhere.
I cannot believe that we have a former twice impeached president running around with a knock list and someone has managed to get arrested in the last couple of months. Charles Coleman, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us tonight on The ReidOut.